Welcome back guys, this is Vishu from SavageCamp, where we turn normal people into tech savages. So this class is what we are going to run, and these are the functions inside the class. So the reason I want to make this clear is because a lot of people write this stuff but they don't understand what they are trying to do, and it would work. But then if you want to understand stuff, you need to know what it is doing. You can't just keep copy pasting from the code because you're not learning, you're copying. So to start with, a class has a lot of functions in it. These functions are created because they are going to be used over and over again, and it helps organize the code. Now this class has an initialize function. Every class should have this. It's not compulsory, but it should. And it has a self variable. This self is created when we initialize the class, and this self has a lot of variables inside it that we define in the init function. Now what this does is helps us to use these variables anywhere over here. So here we have self.playlist id, and if I paste it over here, suppose I return self.playlist id, this function will create the playlist and return the playlist id to store it in the variable. Now the advantage of this is we can use this variable anywhere in these functions, and we don't have to pass it over and over again. So if you're getting the URI, you don't have to pass the playlist ID over here. You don't have to pass the playlist ID over here. You don't have to pass the playlist ID over here. And one of the big advantages is if the playlist ID changes over here, this one, if we are using this way, it is going to change everywhere. So suppose I make a playlist named 1, and so here the playlist ID is 1. So here the playlist ID is 1. But suppose I use a local variable playlist ID over here and I change it to 2. So I change my playlist ID to some other playlist. But if I don't pass this playlist ID, I'm still referencing over. So suppose I use playlist ID over here, I'm still going to look at playlist ID number 1, which is wrong because the playlist ID was changed to 2. So I have to make sure this is passed everywhere, so everything is updated. So rather than doing this, we assign it over here, and every time there is a change, we change the main variable. And what that does is you don't have to pass the variable over and over again to have that value. Once you change it over here, it is going to change over here, and then this is going to be referenced everywhere. So you don't have to worry about values of the variable change. And this is going to get more clear once we write the stuff. But that is what I want you to understand, is that the variables that we declare over here are supposed to be used in all these functions. That's why they are in self. Now we will come across variables that are going to be declared locally and they won't have self, and you will see it as we progress in the code. But I just wanted to make this clear that the reason we have self.these variables is because they are going to be used globally, and we want to make sure we are using the correct values of the variable so we don't mess up. So that is it for this video. In the next video, we will start writing the first function.